all the way from the beggar to millionaire American style. So this is the opposite of being lazy, right? They also offer some aperitif, vino and so on. I think it could be connected with this Lazzoni. I think it was this subculture that something is supposed to be given for free, like the olive trees, like the fruits from the woods and so on. Something is gotta give for free, like aperitif in restaurants. They are concrete, they are open-minded usually because they are individualistic, so why not? And they also had this very huge and very strong regionalism, and the language was the literary and political language, Italian language, was really united in the 19th century when Italy itself was united. So the regionalism are strong still, but in the same time the unification of language is strong, and there's a good deal of not of consequence but of consistency with the spelling and the reading, talking in language, because it was done recently in 19th century, whereas in France in the 17th century it was made, and so it was not very academic from our point of view way of looking on the language. So we have, for instance, in French language we have Renaissance style spelling, but we pronounce in a different way, which make a French language comparatively to Italian difficult, whereas Italian is much more obvious. The spelling, the reading is much more obvious. No such problems with Italian, really. And the same, for instance, the French missionaries, they have done the same mess in the 17th century Vietnam. They have colonized later on. The films, Italians' films are considered to be fantastically good or very, very bad. It all depends on the point of view, of course. For me, I am not so much concentrated on the aesthetics, and the Italians are, they fare bella figura. So for me, Italian movies are usually hard to watch. But if people are looking for this La vita è bella, la gran bellezza, and so on, so they will be positively shocked always by Italian films more than by another nation's films. So I personally prefer the deep thought than presenting. So for me it's more like Northern style film that appeal to me stronger. But just the opposite is with the music. The Italian music is fascinating because the Italians have really invented modern classical music, because there's a theory that the southern birds are not singing, so they first, and it's true, southern birds are rarely singing like northern birds are singing in the woods. But and this is the theory that connects this fact to the fact the Italians have made the first concerto formula. There were two types, and concerto was only instrumental. The idea of making music only instrumental. It was never so. It was music was either for dancing or either for singing. It was not for presenting, like concerto presenting. The Italians have invented it, and there were two forms. The one is of Giuseppe Torelli and Arcangelo Corelli, the last part of the 17th century. They have usually it was starting with the andante or grave, and there were like 5 parts of different speed and type. Sometimes it was something dancing like also incorporated and so on. The other type was slightly later on invented, and not in Rome but in Venice in the early 18th century, mostly by Antonio Vivaldi and Tommaso Albinoni, who preferred the 3 movements, one after another. Allegro, andante, allegro. It was a basic type, and so that's what they made. So the modern music, and I really admire that for the Italians. This is